From dating to relationships, from sex to love, from Christianity to politics, from darkness to light, you have now entered into the real zone. Welcome to Conversations with Trent, where no topic of conversation is safe from discussion. Now, here he is, Mr. Epic himself, Trent Williams.
What's going on? What's going on? What's going on, beautiful people? Welcome to another conversation with Trent and Friends. Of course, as always, we have the lovely Coach D in the studio in the background, waiting. Actually, she's responsible for this topic. Actually, she spoke on a previous podcast. The teachable moment came up, and it sparked a thought from a blog I'd written 2012, I think it was. And her actually teachable moment from last week was normalize walking away from relationships no matter how long you've been invested in them. Again, normalize walking away from relationships no matter how long you've invested in them. Let's bring Coach D in. Hey, what's going on with you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you today?
Pretty good. Shannon's still fighting the bug, but hopefully she'll be better for Sunday's show. So
Okay, sounds
we
good.
we
Hope
want
you
her
feel better, Shannon.
we want her better. So I don't want to just
Definitely.
arm and bring her on, force her hand and what have you. But nah, she's good. She's coming
hmm
along. Shannon, take all the juices you need and to get back healthy so you could actually come back with us. So yeah, I spoke with her about 20 minutes ago, but she's good. She's coming along.
All
Coming
right.
along. So that teachable moment, man, that's what actually struck the conversation for tonight. And I thought about a blog. The moment you said that, normalize walking away from relationships, no matter how long you've invested in it. And you also said, let's get back up there. Let's go back up. You also said that you'll naturally move away from a person that doesn't serve up happiness to you.
hmm
Again, you'll naturally move away from a person that doesn't serve up happiness to you. So I wrote that blog, like I said, back in 2012, and it kind of jogged my memory and got me to thinking about quantity or quality. And over the years, I've actually helped folks along on their path in their relationships and their personal life as well, not just romantic relationships. And we kind of confuse, I think, in my personal opinion, we kind of confuse quantity and quality, that they're not the same. They're not the same. I'd rather 20 minutes of happiness over 25 years of pain.
hmm
It could be 20 minutes of happiness. I'll take that over 25 years of pain. Just think about it. If I was with you, right,
hmm
and we were married 25 years, and if I cheated 15 years of those 25 years, there's no quality in that.
No, there's not. But what
There's no.
happens is people get trauma bonded,
Do
and
tell.
then
I
and
knew you
they
were
get
coming with it.
oh yeah, well they get trauma bonded, and it's a cycle because the person who's not reciprocating will give them a little bit, like they'll feed them love like a little bird. So they'll get
Mm.
enough to sustain them for a little bit, and then they feel a little happy. Then it goes back into a cycle. But here, the problem is that people get so emotionally connected to uh, divorce being a failure.
Exactly. Before we dig right in, let's
Mhm,
get down to the business. Let's get the business out of the way.
Sure.
Tonight's podcast, as always, of course, is sponsored by Taylor Kennedy Media. And we have a new sponsor, blacklightning.com. Blacklightningtrucking.com is a spot for all your logistical needs. That's Black Lightning Trucking. And on Instagram, you can visit them over at Black Lightning Trucking, NOLA, over on Instagram. It's also good stuff over there where you can actually find him. So good stuff. Blacklightningtrucking.com is a spot for all your logistical needs. Good stuff. So let's talk to the views for a hot second, and then we'll dig right to this topic.
Mhm.
What's going on, Slash? This is Mark, Mr. Mark Marine.
He says,
Mark
"Good
Marines.
grand rising melanated people. Greetings, Coach Princess D, video coordinator, Miss Charlie, and Mr. Epic."
Good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. Miss Charlie's still recuperating, so she'll be back with us on Sunday. I spoke with her earlier, Mark, so she's good. She's coming along real good. What's going on, Joker Dog? I see you. Good stuff. Good stuff there. Good stuff there. I see. Hey, Martine, how you doing? Martine. Let's see what she said. There we go.
Oh, peace and love, everyone.
Good stuff, man. Thank you guys for tuning in. So let's get right into this topic here. Oh, Brenda's here as well. What's going on, nephew?
Hey, hello. Looking forward to learning something.
Good stuff. I had a great conversation with Brendan after the podcast, and he took his tidbit, took the stuff that you actually recommended.
Mhm.
He go and speak with his fiance, and he did. So I'm looking forward to actually speaking with him on tomorrow to see how that went. So he
Oh,
actually took your advice and took it very seriously,
I'm
and he
curious.
went right away and went straight into the conversation with them.
I'm curious to see how it went too.
Exactly, that's good stuff,
I,
man. Real good stuff.
I want a report when you find out.
Absolutely. I got you covered. So, throughout the show, we're going to be going through these little tidbits I'm always jotting down. We'll talk about what are the signs for an unhealthy relationship. We'll also talk about signs of a healthy relationship. So there's a couple
Hmm.
of tidbits here that we're going to get into. Let's go. Let's start with the unhealthy, right? The unhealthy signs of a relationship. The number one, lack of support.
Hmm.
If they're not supporting you, man, let's just say this, right? I started this journey again. The conversation's been around for about almost 20 years. And after my incident, the bleed on the brain and what have you, whatnot, um, I had to be encouraged, man, to get back and do this, and especially on camera, because when I did the conversation before, I was completely behind the microphone. No one saw me.
Hmm.
But I was challenged by my good friend and life coach, Tammy Gate out of Memphis, to actually podcast on camera so people could see me again.
Hmm.
And I was reluctant. But think about if I didn't have the support system around me, not just in the relationship, I'm talking about friendships and everything. Think about if I didn't have those support systems. That's not healthy. That wouldn't
Hmm.
be healthy. That's just like what you're doing, supporting me now. That wouldn't be healthy
Well, well,
if I
remember,
didn't have it.
yeah, remember when we talk about relationship, that does not mean just romantic relationships. All
Exactly.
relationships can be healthy or unhealthy.
Exactly. Number 2, let's get to number 2 real quick. Toxic communication.
Hmm.
Communication. Number 3, envy or jealousy.
Hmm.
Number 4, controlling behaviors.
Yeah.
Number 5, resentment. And number 6, dishonesty.
Hmm.
And I'll stop it there, then we'll dig into them. And
Okay.
dishonesty. So I go, and I was actually, as I was jotting these things down, I thought about that. I was like, wow, I was toxic as hell.
Hmm. I think we,
In my relationships and friendships, I was toxic.
I think all of us have had a point where we were toxic to other people if we haven't done any growth. Some people may be in denial about it, but
Right.
I think we all I don't know of one single person who has gone through life to adulthood who has not been toxic to somebody.
Exactly. I totally agree. And the only way that like I say this all the time, the only way I was able to move forward in life and get to that next realm in life, I had to attack every single point here.
Hmm.
Every single point. I used to lack of support and everything with my mate, with my friendship. Like I was very selfish, very selfish. No
Yeah,
support. You get no support from me, but they were still honest friendships with me.
yeah.
I wasn't so honest with them. So yeah, and that's almost like controlling behavior as well. So
Hmm.
the last two to top off that list, patterns of disrespect. Again, we just talked about that. Patterns of disrespect. And the
Hmm.
last one, negative financial behavior.
Hmm.
Negative financial behaviors. What do you mean by that, Trent? Negative financial behaviors. Hey, if D and I are in a relationship, I'm not paying none of my bills, but I'm constantly spending money. That's a
Hmm.
negative trait.
Yeah.
I'm not saving any money. We're not going any further in life. I'm just blowing this money away. That's a negative behavior. There's no plan in place.
Right.
D.
I'm surprised that you didn't have abuse or lack of boundaries.
I did. I was kind of busy today, so I kind of jotted down some quick.
All right, add those two to
You go ahead and add those to it. So that's fine. It's totally fine. You're absolutely right. Speak on that for a second.
So, a lack of boundaries. A lot of people now, like, there's this huge conversation: can men have female friends? Can women have male friends?
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, as long as there are firm boundaries in place. So I spent 18 years in Green. So most of my friends are male. Like, I've some guy friends that I've known since boot I've known them for since 89. Let's not do the math.
Right.
And I know their wives, and I have some female friends who I know as well. Unfortunately, they can't, because of a lack of boundaries, some of them can't have female friends who don't enforce boundaries.
Well, that goes right into Martine's comment. She says, "Could toxic communication be a person who only?" I can't see that. Can you read
Who
that?
only sends texts?
Good question. See?
No. Well, different people have different communication styles. I wouldn't call somebody who only sends text toxic communication unless they're purposely ignoring phone calls. So if they're
Right.
like, you have to make a phone call once in a while.
Exactly. Now, me, I'm totally a communicator, so
Yeah.
I love to have conversation.
Right.
I really don't. I can't deal with the whole texting thing. I'll text, but I prefer more conversation. I need you to hear me,
Yeah.
and I need to hear you.
Yeah.
So I'm old school with that one. I really don't do the text
Yeah.
like my daughters. They kill me with this whole texting thing because when I say I love you, I want to say I love you. I want you to hear me say that.
Now,
And I tell them that all the time. Go ahead.
now going off of that, if their communication style within the text can be toxic, the fact that they only text, I wouldn't put that as toxic unless they were distinct, purposely ignoring phone calls and other forms of communication. But you can have people who text who are very toxic within their text, the way they write and direct language at other people.
Gotcha. She also says, I have mostly guy friends, and I cannot have a guy I can't see that. I'm
Who's
sorry.
uneasy with that?
Guy.
Yeah, and I cannot have a guy. Pardon the question in my last comment. Oh, that's no problem. Yeah, a lot of the problem with people who have issues with somebody who have friends of the opposite sex is, one, there's a trust issue, and chances are they are really bad at enforcing their own boundaries, so they aren't clear if other people are enforcing their boundaries.
Exactly.
And then you have some people who will skirt the line. That's almost is toxic. Like, they'll enforce
What's that
some
look like?
boundaries.
What
They'll
does that
enforce
look
some
like?
boundaries with some people. Like, they'll have ex-girlfriends calling to check up on them, where they don't really do anything, but they're interfering in the relationship. Whereas, or an ex-boyfriend who checks in, and on the surface it looks fine, but then when you dig down,
Right.
you realize that they're giving that person the attention they should be giving their spouse.
Exactly. So Mark says, what about friends that were former lovers? I think he's addressing Martine's comment.
You could be friends with former lovers as long as you enforce boundaries.
Good stuff. Yeah.
It's all about boundaries and respect and communication.
Exactly. I'd be remiss if I didn't say this. Shout out to Mark. We're doing some serious upgrades to the podcast studio, and Mark was again here last night until about 2:15 in the morning, making sure he's tweaking everything and testing headsets and good stuff there. So shout out to 1026, who's always coming through in a time of need to adjust the microphones and to make sure the sounds and everything is good. So good stuff.
Yeah,
1026 Entertainment.
it sounds a lot better this week than it did last time.
Yeah, he did. He
But,
did some tweaking, and we upgraded the mixing board and all the
okay.
good stuff. So yeah,
Yeah.
good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
I tell people 9 times out of 10, if there's an issue in a relationship, the first thing you look at is if boundaries are being enforced and the communication style.
Gotcha. Got.
Those
We have
those are the
Lanya.
two biggies.
We have Lanya Banks from Cups Couch out of St. Louis, Missouri. I'll be out there August 19th, speaking at her grand opening out in St. Louis, Missouri. She says, "Can you read that,
Because
dear?"
yeah, I'm friends with my ex. As a matter of fact, he and his wife lived in my home. Yeah,
Oh wow.
yeah.
Okay.
And like, and I don't have problems with people being friends with exes. Um, I'm like, you know what? I'm an adult. I'm well aware that people have had prior relationships and they can move on
Right.
because I enforce my boundaries.
So how would you actually place that? Where's the quality and something like that? What
Was
Lanya just spoke of. She's friends with. Is there quality in that friendship? You would say.
yeah, I would say
Okay.
there's quality because friendship is there's different types of friendships. Like there are lifelong friendships. There are friendships that come and go. Like there's friendships. Like I have friends who I haven't seen because I live in another country. I haven't seen them in a decade. But if I showed up at their door,
Right.
I would have a room to stay in. They would cook, and we would be talk like we never spoke. We spoke yesterday.
And honestly, that's the type of friendship that you and I have. I have a 20-year friendship
Yeah,
where you call me if you're in the area. I have no problem opening the door. Hey, come on through.
yeah. And I think people get too caught up in the they used to have sex,
Exactly.
and I'm like, you
Totally
know
agree.
what? If we ignored everybody that we used to have sex with, 9 times out of 10, that person you used to have sex with, if you were friends before with them, you could be missing out on some quality friendships.
Good stuff. Good
So
stuff. Good stuff.
boundaries, people. That's the key word here. Boundaries.
I love it. I love
You
it.
tattoo it across some people's foreheads.
Martine
Um,
says, "What about?" I'm sorry, I can't see that thing. I can't.
what about the ex or friend who calls for handiwork and when they're in an emergency? Now, this is where boundaries have to be enforced. Are they calling occasionally for handiwork, or that are they using somebody's spouses as a secondary spouse type thing? Because that would be a boundary that would need to be enforced,
Exactly.
right? But like,
Absolutely.
if somebody's calling somebody an emergency, I know I have a list of people who, if I had trouble, that I would call. Some of them have spouses, but I also know the spouse,
Right. Now,
so I
I would say that that's a healthy relationship dangling the line of
yeah. It's all
toxicness.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's the boundaries would have to be really enforced. If somebody's calling somebody's spouse up all the time, every time for a handiwork project,
Yeah, something's
yeah,
not right. Yeah, something's
you
not
hit up
right.
Craigslist, you can find somebody to do some work for you, or learn to do it yourself.
Absolutely. Well, so speaking of that, let's go into the signs of healthy relationship. I
Okay.
wrote a couple of tidbits down for that as well. So number one, you trust each other.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, just I mean to trust each other, just like Dee was just saying. And honestly, like if an ex is actually calling my girlfriend up or what have you, whatnot, I would have the conversation with her. Hey, listen, that's not gonna work for me. That's where the true trust and honesty comes into play. But you have to vocalize that, you have to verbalize that to
Yeah.
her. She's not a mind reader.
Yeah.
Speak to her about it. You have to have a conversation first. So number two, you support each other.
Mm-hmm.
Number three, you're equal partners. And this is
Mm-hmm.
where a lot of people get confused about the partnership.
Mm-hmm.
If I have a partner, right? I want her to be on my team. I want her to be on the team. I want her to operate again, I'll talk about the disability.
Yeah.
My plane crashed. I had a nosedive, a
Mm-hmm.
complete nosedive, right? And I was with my ex-girlfriend at the time, Javon, and complete nosedive. She went into straight pilot mode.
Yeah.
Again, she went into straight pilot mode. She
Mm-hmm.
took over the plane, fed me, cleaned me, took care of me
Mm-hmm.
for a solid year and a half. So she was a great partner. She took over the realms, took everything. I couldn't actually for a while I could not see. I was blind and everything.
Yeah.
Couldn't walk. I was bedridden. She took over the pilot. She jumped in the pilot seat. No thinking about it because when I fell ill, I was at her house.
Yeah.
From that moment, boom. That's called a partnership.
Mm-hmm.
That's called a partnership.
Yeah.
So
Well, go ahead.
number four, you can be yourselves. You
Mm-hmm.
have to be yourself. You can't walk into the relationship being someone else. You
Yeah.
have to be yourself. Number five, You communicate well and honesty with each other. You
Mm-hmm.
communicate well and honestly with each other. That's communication, like I spoke of earlier.
Yeah.
If I have a problem with you, D, I'm going to speak with you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to let it linger. I'm not going to sit in it. I'm not going to wallow in it, be upset in it. No, we're going to talk about this. Well, cooler heads will always prevail.
Right.
That's a healthy relationship.
Mm-hmm.
That's a sign of a healthy relationship. Let's get to some of these comments. Let's see.
And I have some more for you as well. We'll do some comments first.
Okay. Martina said,
Um, we're like sisters to him. Could even go to their renewal of their vows.
that's very toxic.
Yeah, that's yeah. If you couldn't go to somebody's renewal of their vows, that's not. Yeah, that's an issue.
Yeah, that's not good. She also says,
My one dude friend's wife cannot stand my sister and I. I'll say she doesn't like that we've known him before she met him. Yeah, I know. I have a couple of friends like that.
exactly. Lanye out of Cubs Couch, she says, boundaries and morals. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And there's some other things like a person has to feel emotionally safe
Mhm.
To be vulnerable so they can be their true self.
What does that look like? Tell the audience what that looks like.
Somebody who feels emotional, like I think I discussed it the other day. If somebody is having issues with the relationship, maybe they had trauma and they're having trouble communicating it. If somebody's not an emotionally safe person where they don't think that their words will be thrown back at them, then they can't be open and vulnerable. Another one is transparency. Like these days, a lot of people like to lie by omission. Like they'll give the truth, but they'll only give part of the truth, which is technically you're lying. You just haven't told the lie, and that gets a lot of people caught up in some nonsense they don't need to be caught up in. And let's see, boundaries. I was gonna say communication style. We went through that, and transparency. Yeah, and transparency. That was it.
Well, I got to speak on quality for a minute. A quality relationship is a healthy relationship. That's something I had to learn over the years.
Yeah.
That's something I had to learn. I had to actually acquire that trait because I became my father. I became the man I hated. I became my father. So that's the only the relationships that I saw him in, I thought that was normal. Having several women, I thought that was a normal thing to do. I marvelized this guy. This guy was my idol. So, I mean, he was a very responsible, loving father who took care of his responsibility as kids, but he failed in the department of showing his boys how to be womanizers. And that's just the brutally honest truth.
Yeah.
But I had to learn what a healthy relationship was. I had to.
Yeah.
Totally different situation.
Yeah, most people do if they don't have an example in front of them.
Exactly.
So it's now the only thing I have with the issue with quantity is people get into double standards when it comes to quantity. Like if a guy, they talk about body counts, and if a guy has been with like 40 women, then he's a stud. If a girl's been with 6 women, then she's a tramp. And I'm like, no,
it's the same. It's the same.
I'm like, it's
totally the same.
Like, I'm of the firm belief that you need to kiss a lot of frogs in order to find a prince. Right? Because not everyone is the one. And we should not settle for almost good enough. When good enough
I think that some folks that's actually followed me over the years with this platform and at speaking engagements all over the country, they would be surprised that I've only had 2 major relationships in my life as far as marriages, and had a relationship with you. I could actually count on one hand how many girlfriends I've had. You're sitting in the 5 of them. You're sitting in. Now, that's
the difference between girlfriends and what was the word the other lady used? Please. So how many is that number is the question. Sir.
Hey, knock it off.
Right?
Hey, Mark, we got to get that button working for the knock it off thing. So. Well, it's a whole bunch of fleas. I got to be honest. Yeah.
People get so caught up in it, and I'm like, you know what? It's numbers mean literally nothing as long as the people are being safe.
Exactly.
If you're being safe, then be safe and do your thing. Try to find that person who is your person. Right? There's 8 billion people out there. You're not going to find them in the first 2, unless you're very lucky.
So Martine says,
yeah, some divorced couples never remarry, and from that, some folk don't learn healthy relationships. Yeah, that's true.
Mark says,
Mark says, I have a pre-discussed rule. Oh, my queen doesn't hug any man that's not blood family. These loving arms are one of, sir. That's toxic.
Tell Mark why that's toxic.
It's now I need to know what is the issue behind that she can't hug somebody else that's not a blood relative. If somebody told me that I couldn't hug my army buddy of 30 years who's had my back, I would drop you in like a hot minute.
Uh-oh.
Because
Lonnie Banks from Cub Scouts
says, I believe I spoke with you about that, Trent.
You definitely did.
Yeah. Definitely. And it's all about that comes across as actually controlling. Right?
You know what? That's quite interesting.
There's a boundary, but that is a very specific boundary that it comes across because he used the addition of that arms of one, so it's only for him. Now I understand that there are some religious beliefs, and I'm not going to knock any religious beliefs. Have at her.
Right.
But that's I would say that's controlling. Sorry.
Lonnie has a good one there.
Yeah. It's a thin line, but you go for it. That's what you got. That's what you go for. And if that's what you're into, that's what you're into. More than one woman, more than one man. It can be tricky and fatal.
That's true. We'll finish off with Martine's comment before the break.
Okay. Guys who call themselves pressuring women into giving them a number of how many sex partners they've had. You know what? I am going to be very honest. I have talked to a lot of women, and men I don't know where y'all are getting your advice from, but good God, you're getting bad advice.
Now you said, say some men. You know how I don't like to be categorized. Can you say some men?
I did. I said, I don't know where some of y'all are getting.
Gotcha.
I know I'm a northerner, so I speak a little fast. So, you got to keep up, sir.
There you go.
But yeah, it's there's some, and the problem now is women are afraid to say no because men are so violent if we do say no.
What does that look like? And you know what? Hold that thought right at the break. That was interesting what you just said. Mm-hmm. I really want to dig into that. Men are what now?
Yeah. Men are violent when women say no.
Gotcha. We'll tackle that right after the break, folks. We'll be right back.
Sounds good.
Thanks for tuning in to Conversations with Trent. We will be right back with more conversation after these commercial breaks.
Check out the creative work of the author Trent Williams of www.taylorkennedymedia.com. Chapter of the Delta gives us a peek at his life-changing events. And if that's not enough, Trent tells you more about his brothers and his life through memoirs in his book, The Four Horsemen. His blogs and daily stimulating quotes are published in his book, Life's Little Addiction. And when you have a need of some human coaching of life and relationships, Take a look at Conversations with Trent, Volume 1 and 2, and Conversations with Trent, Limited Edition. You will find his works available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all online book retailers.
Welcome back to Conversations with Trent. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're online and want to be a part of tonight's topic, you can do that by dialing 347-324-5327. Press the number 1 to get into the queue so that your voice can be added to tonight's conversation. Now, let's get back to the show.
Taylor Kennedy Media, as well as Tabs Edible Creation. But the one tonight that I'm actually focusing on is Al Sal's Famous Wings. That's a catering company out of Monroe, Louisiana. And actually, it's going to be a hot summer. He just started catering back. It's my brother, and it's powered by Taylor Kennedy Media. That'll be 31 flavors of hot wings and all sorts of wings. Catering for all your catering needs. Al Sal's Famous Wings. There we go. Coach D, let's get back into this man, this violent man you were talking about.
Oh, well, I'll give you an example. Before COVID, I was walking. We parked the car, and me and Xavier walking to the library. And the gentleman came up behind me and said, "Can I have your phone number?" And I said, "No, I'm sorry, I'm not interested. I don't give out my phone number." Right? Now, most men would take the L and walk away. Right?
Right.
Men who I'd actually want to talk to, who are respectful and trustworthy and everything like that. Well, this guy started to call me out of my name. And of course, I'm with Xavier.
Was there?
Xavier's there. So I turned into Mama Bear. I'm like, "Xavier, go in the library." And I basically went up one side of this guy, down the other side. And I told him, I said, "No woman is going to give you your number if you have proven to be unsafe." I said, "No one can trust you when the first thing you do when she says no is curse her out." And I gave him a full-on "you're causing trauma and harm to people" lecture, while not using some not so nice words. And he's like, "Well, it always works for me." I'm like, "It obviously doesn't always work for you, because if you came another closer, you would find out you would get shot between your legs."
Exactly.
And he's just like, "Why would you do that?" I'm like, "Because you're dangerous and you're harmful and you threaten me while I'm with my child." I said, "If you want to approach women, if somebody says no and they're with their child, walk away, because she will go into full Mama Bear mode and you're of no consequence when she's going to protect that child."
I'm surprised you didn't pull that thing out on him knowing you.
No, I don't have to. I can use my voice.
Gotcha.
Use my voice. But the biggest cause of death among pregnant women is murder. Like,
absolutely.
It's unfortunately, there's this epidemic of violence against women that is growing and is still not being taken care of. And we got to stop teaching our boys, if a woman says no, to keep bothering until she says yes. No is a complete sentence. It is an answer.
That's a little different.
Yeah. And there's a lot of great guys out who don't do that. But unfortunately, they usually get overshadowed by the guys who do.
Right.
Sadly enough. And it's to the point where women are afraid to say no because of those guys. Because they're a threat. They don't know if they'll come up behind them in a car and put a knife to their neck, or they'll hit them, or what they might do.
Exactly. Martine says,
yeah, guys will trip verbally if you don't comply, or they'll flip on you, cuss you out. I guess you're about to get socked too. Yeah. Oh yeah,
Uh,
I have no doubt that he would if I wasn't completely in control of who I am, that some violence would have occurred.
Mark says,
Yeah, men are violent. Men are violent, or some men choose violence. Some men choose violence. I don't think all men are inherently violent
yeah,
because um, they have morals, ethics, values. They've done their work. So
absolutely.
I don't categorize anybody like generally. I always try to use most or some. But the problem is that when it comes to women, we're exposed to the violent ones more often. So it becomes a lot harder to allow somebody to approach you who's being polite and respecting your boundaries.
Exactly, exactly. Well, on a conversation, well, you know me, we don't advocate that toward women.
Mhm.
We don't do that at
No,
all.
no, no.
Be
I
honest with
understand. Just
you.
put it out there. Yeah.
To be honest with you, we intervene in situations like that.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's not cool at all. I don't go with that at all.
No.
Not at
And
all.
a lot of great men will intervene, and then otherwise will some other ones will egg it on, which
That's not
is sad
cool.
to see because there is so much trauma in the world and such a lack in some places of examples of healthy relationships.
Exactly. Totally agree. So speaking of healthy relationships,
Hmm.
what was your thoughts on the tidbits I gave up for the
Yeah,
signs of healthy relationships?
yeah, those are signs. They're basically pretty much the opposite of the unhealthy relationships.
Pretty much.
Communication, transparency, support, respect, boundaries. Um, I say communication,
Yeah.
intimacy, intimate communication as well, and trust and
Exactly.
integrity.
Tell the viewers who don't know what intimacy communication looks like. What
So
does that look
intimate communication is communication where you can be vulnerable, because not all relationships are romantic relationships where you'll have communication where you can be your vulnerable, authentic self, where a man can break down and cry and know that that's not going to be thrown back at him, or
exactly? And you know
it's
what? I had my best friend on maybe a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, a couple of
mhm,
months ago, and on the podcast he was speaking with his wife, and that was one of his issues, like being afraid of being thrown back at him.
mhm,
If he was soft and vulnerable and he cried in front of her, because you're always hearing, man up, man up. Come on, man.
mhm.
No man wants to hear that back, thrown back at him in a sign of weakness, in a state of weakness. No man wants to hear that
But
thrown back at him.
expressing emotion is is a sign of strength.
Exactly.
Like,
A lot
repressing
of folks don't
emotion.
know that. A lot of folks do not know that, but that's a
It's
sign of huge
the
strength.
if I hear somebody say "man up," I know they're toxic coming off because they're not allowing whatever man it is in their life to express their emotions, and then they hold it in. So then the only emotion they express is anger.
Exactly. Joker Dog says
The double
double
standard with
standards
women.
with women.
Hmm. I agree. It is a big double standard. If
And he
because
also
of
says
men crying in front of most women is what is that? A no no?
normal.
A
That's
no
what he
no?
said. Always said no, no.
Yeah.
Well, to the women, yes, I would agree with that. To the women, it's no, no.
I would say unhealed women.
Ooh, D. All hate mail for the conversation show goes directly to D. If I said that, they would be lighting fires right now.
You know what? Email me,
Good.
d.layler@gmail.com.
Now
Have at it.
tell them about the unhealed women, please.
So,
I love that.
because human beings express emotion. If you're not allowing the human being in your life to express emotion, you are toxic, plain and simple.
Absolutely.
There's no answer for us about it. If the only emotion that that man has is anger, then where's the sadness? Where's frustration? You can't
Exactly.
support somebody you can't support somebody fully if they can't express their frustration.
And you know something? This is so funny that you say this,
Mhm,
but those are signs of opportunity with relationships when
mhm.
a man is at his lowest point. he can actually speak and express himself to his woman,
Yeah.
and she gets him.
Yeah.
That's the most intimate setting one could ever create.
Hmm. Yeah. Now,
I mean, go ahead.
now there's the other half that is sometimes she may be that person, but he may have it in his head from his own trauma that he can't express it.
Exactly.
So it's a double-edged sword that both people have to be on the same path and have some communication about expressing emotions.
Exactly.
Bottom of the bottle. I don't know what it means. Bottom of the bottle. What does that mean?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Can you
Let's
explain that further? What bottom of the bottom of the bottle means?
Martine says, yes, Trent. She's probably commented one of the comments there,
Okay.
as well as she says,
I'm
I'm
human and I
here.
have a heart. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Good
I
stuff.
can't see. I'm on my cell phone, so I can't see any of the comments. So I just have to rely on Trent to pass them through.
Gotcha.
So I may miss contacts. But yeah, it's that's I think one of the biggest issues right now with human communication is not allowing others to express emotion.
Now that's a powerful comment. She says that weak and what did she say? Weak and broken women.
Weak
Yeah.
and or broken women. I don't like to call anybody broken. I prefer unhealed.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a nicer way, but it's still a tough word for someone to swallow when they don't want the pill.
Yeah, but broken can cause more harm than good though. If you're and I'm when I look at things, I look at it from a trauma standpoint. So if I have somebody who's stuck in a trauma brain, if I call them broken, they're not going to open up to me.
Right. Joker Dog followed up.
Bottom of the bottle was where men can express their emotions. Yeah. I feel sad that men don't feel free to express their emotions. It said women who get their man when he's emotional. Yeah.
Absolutely. But
And
most men are afraid to express themselves out of fear of being ridiculed, out of
yeah,
fear of being, exposed. And I mean, nobody wants to be placed on Front Street when you've opened up your heart.
yeah,
You've
that's
opened
true.
up your soul to someone. No one wants to be placed on Front Street.
Well, then that means
I,
that's not a healthy relationship then.
exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
This
This
is
is good stuff.
yeah, not every conversation you have with the in different relationships need to be shared with other people.
Exactly.
You don't need a what is I saw somewhere on Twitter. You don't need a committee meeting every time you have a discussion with the male or female in your life.
You really don't.
No. So.
You really don't. You really don't. You really don't. But that communication, man, goes a long way, whether it
Hmm.
be toxic or healthy. It
Yeah.
depends on you, the individual, where it's gonna go.
Yeah.
So if you
Um,
if you approach a person with some toxic communication, you're gonna get that in return. So
there is there is a great book out there called Nonviolent Communication,
mhm. Who's that
and
by?
um I will post it on your Facebook page. It's on my somewhere. It's somewhere amongst my books.
Gotcha.
But
Gotcha.
it's called Nonviolent Communication, and it basically teaches you how to communicate in a way that doesn't automatically put people on the defensive. So
Exactly.
you communicate in a way that allows people. That's why like I use unhealed instead of broken. So
Oh, this
it
is
allows you to have different discussions and difficult conversations in an open way where people will feel they can trust that you
this is a great
speak with them.
comment.
I love when a man's able to open up. Usually the men are comfortable with me. Yeah.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Tennessee Whiskey, Joker Dog. I don't know if a ton of folks know about that song, but I know exactly what you're
What,
talking
ten-
about.
what Tennessee
Tennessee Whiskey.
whiskey?
It's a song. It's a song by Tennessee Whiskey.
What's in the lyric? I know it's a song. He says it's a song. What's in the lyrics?
I can't remember the words, word for word, but it's a wonderful song.
Okay.
I see if I can pull it up.
All right. I was listening. I was talking to somebody last night, and she asked me to send her a power list of songs I listened to, and I was like, oh, okay, no problem. Let me send you like Glory. I want to feel you. I want to hear you're brave. Rise up. All kinds of stuff and I was here. Like, I think that sometimes we get so caught up in being perfect and speaking the right way that we forget that we can make mistakes and we can use different types of words and communicate in different ways.
Exactly.
Like, not everything has to be a conversation. Sometimes a hug can be a complete conversation.
Exactly. Martine said.
Yeah. The only guys who did trip negatively were the unhealed ones. Yeah, the unhealed dudes. It's true.
Absolutely.
And you want to stay far, far away from them anyway.
Exactly. Now, you have to, and that's on both sides, male and female. You have to recognize when the person is unhealed. That's why you get into this quantity relationships. These relationships that add up in numbers, but nothing in quality, zero in quality, because you haven't seen the toxic. You haven't recognized it because there's something in you still lacking.
Yeah.
So we have to be mindful of that.
Yeah, because quite often we get in different cycles, or we have an anxious attachment, or we have a avoidant attachment, depending on how we grew up, what relationships we saw.
Exactly.
So, yeah,
tell folks what an anxious attachment looks like.
So an anxious attachment is somebody who's always constantly worried that the other person doesn't love them, doesn't care about them. They can't be open, they can't be themselves because they're always stressed out that what this person will do.
Exactly.
So, yeah. And I was on TikTok the other day, and I see a lot of mess amongst life coaches. And one life coach was talking about her anxious attachment. I'm like, girl, you're dating a married man. Of course you're anxious. Why don't we do a little work on that first? And then
at TikTok, did you get back to TikTok and give your TikTok handle to the
No, it's Coach D Layler. I actually have my mic set up for tonight to do some once Xavier's school is out, man. I don't get time for nothing.
Right.
So, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, she's a wonderful trauma coach. That's why I asked her to join the conversation, because she could actually walk a ton of folks through some things. She's walked me through a ton of things. So she's a wonderful trauma coach, man. Coach D Layler.
And I'm going back to university. I just applied today.
Good stuff.
Going to get my psychology degree.
Good stuff. Good stuff. That's what I'm talking about.
Let's see what they. Yeah. Oh, 4 more.
So what's your teachable moment for the night?
My teachable moment is try to maintain healthy. Actually, don't try to maintain healthy boundaries and communicate your needs.
Gotcha.
And if you communicate your needs and your wants and you maintain those boundaries, you can turn a relationship that is not what you need into something that you do need.
Exactly.
Right? Because that person may be great. You just need to tweak things a little.
Exactly. And that's my teachable moments for the ladies here. I'm going to piggyback off of what you said a little bit. But before you do that faraway look, when he comes into the door, have some communication, have some open, honest communication with him, and let him know where he's lacking so he could actually pick up where he's going.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my teachable moment. Before you get to the faraway look, you know how you ladies do. You know, you give that man that faraway look. You're on the phone with your girlfriend, and he walks in from work. Girl, he come with his broke ass. Before you get to that, open up with some honest dialogue, man, some honest communication, and that may be the man for you. You just have to walk him to his next realm in life.
Now, on that note, make sure that you're not mothering somebody who doesn't need mothering. That it's support and not mothering. There's a fine line between being a spouse and a mother, and too often some people get caught up in being the mother and then ends up with regret and all kinds. It just gets bad quick.
Regret, bitterness, a ton of stuff. But when they end up with the bitterness and a ton of regret, at some point you have to take responsibility for the toxic you allowed to bring into your party.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
that's good stuff. That's good stuff, D. That's real good stuff there, man. Good stuff. Good stuff. Let's get to these last few comments and we'll check out here.
Okay. I've learned to just be me, the imperfect me, and to not allow anyone to redirect my destiny. That's right. That's the only person you can be is you.
That's a great teachable
Yeah,
moment, Martine.
there
Mark
is
says,
one. Oh, Mark says people express the environment they've been exposed to, whether loving or violent. That's very true. I
very
look. I have to agree with you again. Oh my God! I bet buy that Mega Millions ticket.
isn't that something? Isn't that something? Isn't
Yeah,
that something?
yeah.
Joker
The
Dog
consequence
says, congratulations. Not sure what he
of
means by that, but that's good
that may
stuff
be
though.
within the come. Yeah.
Yeah,
So you know what? Life is great if you take the time just to sit back, enjoy it, and like think about how your communication style works or doesn't work. Because we like
exactly.
healing is a journey. There's no destination. We're always doing work. I constantly do work on myself, and
Exactly.
it's and when you're conscious of the work that you do on yourself, it becomes easier to be helpful to others without that are still in their journey.
Oh, he says, congratulations, D, on going back to the university. Good stuff.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
Good stuff.
So,
Yeah, we talk about the about that. I'm always talking about the personal chisel.
mm-hmm.
And you have to be within yourself to recognize your
Yeah.
chisel and use it. You
Mm-hmm.
can't just have that thing just walking around on your belt strap, man. You got to pull that thing out and use it. We're all a work in progress. Even on this platform, man, you're continual growth. It's called continual growth.
Yeah.
Everyone's a work in progress. That's what these conversations are about.
Yeah.
Growth,
Most yeah, most people
continual
don't
growth.
yeah, most people don't start the growth until something hits rock bottom.
Boom,
But then the growth is exponential. And then
boom.
they become an example for others to so others can be like, wow, they were really toxic. Now look at them. So, you know,
Jewel after jewel being dropped. You're always dropping these jewels, man. This is
listen, man,
good stuff, man.
that's why I charge what I charge.
Well, I'm glad my services are free, so I appreciate it. That's good stuff, man. Good stuff. We'll close out with Mark's comment here in a second. 1 second. Let's get to Mark and Martine.
Um, what's a male perspective for women have to kiss a lot of friends asking for old junior usher? What? Are they kissing on the cheek? Kissing on the lip? Europe kissing is very everybody kisses. Mm.
See, I wouldn't have a problem with my lady actually kissing on the cheek and
Yeah,
hugging gentlemen, what have you, and whatnot. I mean, she know exactly. Let's just be clear. She would know straight up front how I am, how I feel about certain situations. Certain situations she's not going to place me in because
yeah,
she know I will react and say something.
yeah. It's
So
boundary.
I mean, you have to, yeah, you have to know your spouse or your partner or
Yeah,
whomever. They know, hey, that's a no no. Let's not do that.
yeah, yeah. Um, I I my stepdad's Greek, so I grew up where you hug and kiss people on the cheek all the time. Never thought
Right,
anything of it. And
right.
so yeah, you have to look at people's cultures as well.
That's a
Like for
great point.
some, yeah, like for some people that's normal. I have some Muslim friends. When I go to their house, I don't shake any of the male's hands. I just put my hand over my chest and bow my head. Because even though they would shake my hand, even though I'm not a female relative, out of respect for them, I do that because then it doesn't put them in an awkward situation for their
Exactly,
religious values. It's all about respect and
exactly,
boundaries. Those are like if we can do that, the world will be a happier place.
exactly. Martine says, just don't have me looking silly. Exactly. I think, and here's the thing, though. I'm glad Mark brought this up as he threw some extra. We call it throwing extra spice into the gumbo pot. I'm
Yeah.
I'm glad he did that. But you know what? Let's just say you and I are at a gathering. We're together, D,
Uh-huh.
and you know my mentality. You know exactly how I am, how I move, and what have you. You're not gonna gaslight that. You're not gonna put no fire on that because you know well. I know how he is, but in order for you to know that, we have to have gone there as far as communicating,
Hmm.
honest communication
Yeah,
will get, a relationship going into the quality spectrum of things. You
yeah,
understand? You understand where I'm coming from?
I do.
So
But
it shouldn't
there would,
be. Go ahead.
yeah, there would have to be a conversation because
That's my point.
you're being triggered by it is something that you would have to work on,
Exactly.
right? So it's a two-way streak about respect. If say I have one of my army buddies come over, I'm gonna give him a big hug and kiss on the cheek.
Right.
If somebody came up and said no, I'm like, really? I said, this man's had my back. I'm like, I trust him more than I trust you right now. So you know,
Exactly.
what I mean? Because I know they would give. If I said I need help, they would drop everything and come and be like, "What do you need?"
Exactly. And I said that to say
Yeah,
communication has to be a continual open door in
constant.
relationships, period.
Yeah.
Not just romantic in relationships, period.
Uh-huh.
Communication that door has to be open door
Oh,
policy.
yeah,
Has to be.
yeah. Because if you're not communicating, like you'll see on these reality shows, it just gets
Right.
toxic really quick because
E-
people will get hurt
Exactly.
because people will have entire conversations in their head about you that you haven't contributed to, and they'll be mad about something you said that you never said because it was all in their head.
Exactly.
So it's yeah, you have to communicate with people because human beings we're imperfect creatures, and then we get into our feelings all the time.
I gotta make light of this comment here because I know exactly what she's talking about. She says some
Some
people
people,
who go
oh,
ahead.
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. Now you go ahead.
Some people have never been off of the east-west side, and there's no sense of culture.
What she's talking about is the east side of Detroit and the west side of Detroit. No sense of culture. So yeah, they're a little different in those areas.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah, but
Yeah,
no culture at all.
it
But
is like I had a friend who loves ballet and opera, but her boyfriend at the time, she dumped him, of course, but her boyfriend at the time didn't want to go to see the ballet because he thinks seeing men entice is a simp behavior.
where's he from?
Oh, he was from California, but I'm like the insecurity in his masculinity was like because you're watching a guy in tights. Like, come on, dude. But she ended up dumping him for like the sweetest, biggest redneck that I've ever met in my entire life.
That
And
sound like
his name is actually Bubba, who
that,
loves ballet.
that sound like some red flags to me if he's getting triggered by a man in tights. I wouldn't give a
Be-
damn.
because
But
because he was always told men don't do this, men don't do that, men don't enjoy this, men don't enjoy
mm,
that. So he has a toxic view of what men are able to enjoy. So you know it's sad what we've done to some of our boys that have grown up to become
exactly,
toxic men.
exactly. Well, it's 8 o'clock, and we're gonna get out of here on time because Kobe needs his walk. Let's
Hmm.
finish off with Martine's comment as well as Mark's comment.
Right. I mean, generally, never been anywhere. They have no sense of culture. Yeah, yeah.
She's talking
I
about the
know
east
people.
side of Detroit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And Mark says kissing frogs.
uh-huh. Yes,
What's
sir.
this?
There are lots of frogs out there. Some of
We're
them
gonna
wear
talk
skirts.
as we always do here on the conversation. Someone either from the viewers or D herself or Shannon or myself, we throw something spicy into the gumbo pot for next week. We're gonna talk about those kissing frogs. What you think, D?
Kissing frogs. Um,
Kissing frogs.
sure. We can bring up lists and all that good stuff.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
So how many frogs have you kissed?
None of your business. A lady doesn't kiss and tell.
That's good stuff. But I'll get it out of her on this Sunday. I guarantee you. We're gonna talk
No,
about it. We never
you've
reply.
never gotten that answer, so I don't know why you think you will get it now.
Good stuff. As always, presses die.
All
As
right.
always. It's always a pleasure. Uh, hug Xavier for me.
I
Good
will.
stuff.
He's
Good
down
stuff.
playing Xbox, so he doesn't mind if I run late. So I'm gonna go break his heart now and kick him off.
Gotcha. Well, we'll be back, same station, same time on Sunday, as we
All right,
always.
everybody have a great night. Bye-bye.
You guys be epic.
Conversations with Trent in conjunction with Taylor Kennedy Media and your radio network would like to thank you for calling in and listening to tonight's episode. We hope that tonight's conversation offended you just enough to turn your mirror inward to come back for more. So until next week's conversation, be epic.